This right here is my living room wall, pretty nice if I do say so myself. However, you may notice that this frame in particular still has the generic picture it was sold with in it. It's been like this for like 3 months now, and going out and getting actual good prints this size is pretty expensive, so I decided to just try and make a print myself. Now, my artistic abilities are nowhere near a level that would make me feel comfortable with this task. To be honest, they are just good enough to create mildly intriguing YouTube thumbnails. What I lack in artistic abilities, however, I make up for in the ability to think of creative ideas that I'm unable to actually draw due to before mentioned artistic ability. Anyways, for my first attempt, I really wanted to integrate power lines into the drawing, as they are an aesthetic I really enjoyed recently, so I threw this sketch together, with this girl sitting kind of precariously on top of these power lines. Here's the thing though, for the full drawing I really did not want to draw an entire power tower thingy. Call it laziness, but that sounded awfully boring to draw, so I spent probably twice the time it would take me to draw the tower in finding alternative ways to get a similar result. So my first idea was to browse Pinterest to find a picture with a similar perspective. I couldn't find anything. So I then had an honestly genius idea. I just had to go into a video game that already has power poles, and then take a screenshot in the same position for it to work in my drawing. So I jumped into the game with the most realistic looking power poles that I happen to own, GTA 5. Except I accidentally joined GTA Online, and the search for power poles there went about the same as you would expect. So after all of that, I just decided to draw the damn tower myself, which is what I should have done in the first place anyway, but whatever. Drawing this luckily wasn't as tedious as I imagined it to be, so there's that at least. Sadly, I didn't record drawing the girl for some reason. Maybe I was afraid that that would make this video way too interesting to watch, because otherwise I really couldn't explain that decision. Now here's how I colored and shaded the picture, but after all of that work, I didn't really like the drawing. I mean, there's not that much wrong with it, it just wasn't really something I wanted to hang on my wall. Cue attempt number 2. Maybe my first idea was a bit too ambitious. After all, I chose a pretty difficult perspective. So for this attempt I tried a way simpler angle. And oh, we've already started the speed paint. Well, at least you can see that this time I actually remember to record the interesting part. And I actually had a ton of fun drawing this. Now initially this was supposed to be a person floating in space. I later decided, however, that I actually want them to float underwater. Mainly because that sounded like a way easier background to draw. The main problem with turning this into an underwater scene is that it's pretty difficult to make it look underwater if you don't know what you're doing, which, surprise, perfectly described me at the time. Thankfully I found a really helpful tutorial by Oyun Orkas and went over all the details on how to make a drawing actually feel underwater. I'll link that video in the description. But the main tip I used in this drawing was overlaying a blue layer on top of the already colored drawing. That technique mutes a lot of the warmer tones I used, which is really realistic since colors like red, orange and yellow get absorbed by water way faster than cooler colors like blue. Now I'm coloring everything, plus I'm adding the blue layer on top with some additional effects like I said earlier. But now I'm doing something new, opening Photoshop. I felt that finishing the drawing in Photoshop would probably be the easiest, so I did. I added a border and some additional effects, like making the screen look a bit more realistic and just generally rearranging some minor details. But finally, here's the finished piece. I did really like this result. Just after finishing, I remembered, however, that this print was supposed to go up on my wall, and I realized that this one is maybe a little too dark overall. So, you know what that means. This is the final attempt, I promise. But for this one I'm doing a little something called cheating. You see, after the end of my previous semester, I picked up my physical, pretty bland looking sketchbook again. And one day, when I was practicing perspective, I made this little sketch of this girl ecstatically holding a watering can. It's not a lot. I, however, really like it for some reason. So screw it, let's just create a giant version of it. For the full drawing, I just took a picture of the sketch and imported it into my drawing program, so I could trace over it. To be honest, I don't think that's even cheating, since I did make the sketch myself, but it still feels kind of wrong to do. You may have noticed that all of the outfits I drew until now were pretty much all the same, just with different color schemes. If you did, good job! I'm really not the right person for creating unique or expressive outfits, which is why in the end I'm always resorting to the tried and true sweatshirt and overshirt combination. Well, except for my own little character. He wears his sweatshirt on top. Even though I thought that my sketch was alright, I still had to tweak it a little when it came to the actual drawing. I had to move her entire leg for it to make sense perspective-wise, and I'm glad I did, because it looks so much better now. But with the magic of speeding this footage up like crazy, here's the final line art. And now I've colored it. And now I shaded it a little. I'm going to spare you with the stuff I did in Photoshop afterwards, so we'll just skip to the final result. And I have to say, out of everything I did so far, this is by far my favorite. I like it so much in fact that I'm confident I'll still like it when it hangs on my wall. Thank God, because that was the entire point. But now that the difficult work is done, I just have to get this printed. And now I finally have it printed, right here. Now I did have a look at it when I got it, and I mean it looks good. Oops. Now I have had it rolled up for a couple of days until I finally got here, but... Oh, you cannot see it at all. Hold on. There's no good way to show this. I'm not actually sure if it fits into the frame. Like my frame is 70 by 50 centimeters, I believe. Because the shop where I got this printed, they only had 75 by 50. Which it should be fine, I'm just not really sure. But this is the big reveal, I guess. So I have my frame right here. On my admittedly pretty small living room table. They do look pretty similarly sized, so I guess the odds are kind of in my favor. Now I just have to get this off, yeah, like that. Then I have to get this awful generic poster off. It has French on it, we don't like that. I mean, if you like it, if you want it, it's in the trash bin outside of my apartment. Just as proof of my laziness, I actually didn't even peel this protective layer off when I got this frame. Oops. I'm sure one of you freaks enjoyed that a little too much. And now for the big reveal. Does it actually fit? Okay, so I spent the last 20 minutes crudely cutting this to fit the frame. I mean, as long as you don't look at the edges, it's fine, it's good enough. This should just fit into the frame. It does, finally. Which means I can now just close it up, and it's framed. Look, that's you. And after all of that work, it finally hangs on my wall now. I'm pretty happy with the result. I mean, it's not the Mona Lisa, but it is better than what was in the frame before, and that's more than good enough for me. Thank you so much for joining me in this exhibition of my terrible workflow, and I hope I'll see you again in the future. Bye!